July 1st, 1863. The 75th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry is going to make its way into town here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. By the end of the day, nearly 43% would become casualties in a small place just on the other side of where I'm at right now. There's a young man in that unit, and he's going to leave his mark here on a building the very next day. 44 years later, that older man is going to come back to this place, and he's going to ask permission to leave yet one more mark on that same building. We're going to talk about him today, show you where he fought, and take you to see the graffiti left behind here in Gettysburg. Welcome back to History with Waffles. Well, today we're back in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and we're telling a little bit of a different story. It's not just an individual vignette, if you will, but it's a story about a man that leaves his mark behind here in this town. It's a past meets present meets future sort of story, I guess you could say. And the soldier in question here has already been featured in a couple of videos on channels that are much larger than my channel. But for me, I didn't get the information that I was looking for. I got a lot of information about the carving itself. There was information about supposedly someone who had first discovered it versus other people who first discovered it. About the article in 1907 that talks about when the man comes back to town. But I didn't get a whole lot out of it about the unit that fought out here, or about the individual himself and what he did prior to the Civil War, who he was married to, anything about him as a person. So I decided to come back out here and try to tell that story my way. Now, if you ever wanted to get a unique view of the battlefield behind the round tops, here it is. If you cut out just past where Little Round Top and Big Round Top connect, there's a road that goes in between. And there's a whole row of monuments out here that go across the Taneytown Road. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, so if you Gettysburg locals out there could correct me, I'd appreciate it. The only other way that I've heard it said is the movie Gettysburg, and he calls it Taneytown. I'm not so sure that it's supposed to be Taneytown. But here you can actually get a good view from behind the round tops. Round tops here, here. All of this area here is where some of the soldiers are actually coming in through this direction. You can see all these Union soldier monuments are lined up along this row. And in a minute I'm going to go over there and get a good view of the Taneytown Road. And the reason why, there it is, I just called it Taneytown. And the reason why is because this is the path that these soldiers are going to be traveling through when they come into town. Union soldiers are passing through here. They're converging from the northern direction, or from the Emmitsburg direction, the southern direction, all throughout here, And then there are other roads where the Union soldiers are converging. Baltimore Pike is off in that direction over there. And they're going to make their way through town. The Cemetery Hill is going to be a rallying point that's going to get set up early on. And the Confederate soldiers are going to meet them there on that western side. So now I'm on Howe Avenue and I'm walking out towards that Taneytown Road. And this route is the route that those soldiers are going to take in. The 75th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry is going to be taking the route through here and making their way into Gettysburg from this location. This is the historic route. It runs all the way through town and back off in this direction towards Gettysburg, right here. This is a really neat place to be. Somewhere right around June 30th of 1863, the 75th is probably right around Emmitsburg, if I'm not mistaken. And they're being told to rush in to town on that July 1st day and to meet as quickly as they possibly can on this field, because there is a major fight happening here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where all the roads are converging. Confederates have already started to smash into the Union soldiers out here, and they're trying to slow the progress down. 75th ends up taking the Taneytown Road. When they finally get into town, they're going to pass by some pretty familiar places. It's some places that they're going to end up spending the rest of their time here located. As they get into town, they're supposed to come out here and meet the enemy head on. Now, where I'm standing right now is Barlow's Knoll. And they did not fight here as part of Barlow's Knoll or Barlow's fight. But you have the creek that's going to be off in the distance over here, the Rock Creek, and the Confederate soldiers that are converging on this position where I'm at right now, and Confederate soldiers that are going to be converging from this direction as well. 75th's monument is right down the road here. This is an actual location where the soldiers from the 75th are going to be placed during those first tense moments that they're in town, or just in the outskirts of town, fighting here adjacent to Barlow's Knoll on what is probably, arguably, the worst day of Barlow's life. The worst possible day of his military career, for sure. His soldiers are primarily Germans. He has a thing against Germans. Our soldier that we're talking about today, his name is Adam F. Miller. But his name is Adam F. Miller because it was changed. Looking at historical documentation, his father's name was Mueller, M-U-E-L-L-E-R. He was an immigrant from Germany. His mother, Anna, was also an immigrant from over in Germany. Those two people came over here and had a pretty decent sized family. Adam happens to be one of the boys in that family. Adam's going to be a soldier in the United States Army. I couldn't find a whole lot about Adam. Couldn't find a whole lot of information at all, actually. Not listed as a very well-educated person. As a matter of fact, some of the census bureaus that I saw about him had him listed as a laborer, a farm laborer, and he was married to a woman named Mary. Her last name was Ross. So he married Mary Ross, and they stayed married for quite some time. The gentleman in question has a disability. It's hard for him to see, and he needs her help all the time. When he gets out here in 1907, it's the same situation. He's being guided around the field, guided around the locations that he's going to, and when he gets over to the Jennie Wade House, as it becomes known, he asks for assistance to find his graffiti. It's about 12:30 when the 75th finally makes their way into the outskirts of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Now imagine yourself in those marching columns coming into Gettysburg, and you're off in the distance. You're on the opposite side of town. Over here is where the fight's actually happening. So the loud cannon roar and musketry and the unmistakable sound of combat is happening out here in these fields, and it's echoing all the way across town, past those large buildings that are there, into the ears of the soldiers that are about to come on. Not to mention, they are going to see one soldier after another being placed on gurneys and wagons and drugged back to the rear for assistance. Soldiers that have been hurt. So they're seeing all kinds of indication that are really bad fights happening out here as they're coming into town. All right, now to give you a little bit of orientation as to where we are right now. If you've ever been to this town, Barlow's Knoll is just here on the hill, right past the old Ames Cemetery. This is a huge farm field, as you can tell. The Weiss grocery store is out there in the distance. This is the Adams County Historical Society's nice new building. This is your line of battle, and the 75th monument's right out there in front. We're about to head that way. So here we are west of Barlow's Knoll right now, and I'm on the extreme left flank of the 75th Pennsylvania, and there is their monument right in between. And if we go just past here, you can actually see their right flank marker right over there. That's not a lot of space in between these markers here to put men, but there's a little over 200 of them out here. And they are going to line up right here, roughly right here. They are facing this direction over here. They're with the 11th Corps, 3rd Division, 2nd Brigade, and they are ready to fight. And one heck of a fight is about to come on out here. So bad that they are going to have to flee back through town, which is off in this direction over here. Once you go back through there, the soldiers will have to make their way from street to street, back through the square, and eventually on the high ground that's been identified as a place for them to rally. This is not going to be easy for them. The fight out here is going to be very difficult, and they're hoping to actually keep this ground. So now taking a look at our monument here for the 75th Pennsylvania, it talks about being a part of that 2nd Brigade and 3rd Division of the 11th Corps. July 1st, fought in this position from 2 p.m. until the Corps retired. July 2nd and 3rd, held position at Stonewall near the cemetery as shown by monument there. Present, 268. Killed officers 3, men 16. Wounded officers 5, men 84. Captured or missing 3. Total loss of 111. And if I do my math right, it's about 43% of total loss here. That's a massive amount of men, even for a small unit, to be lost on this field. And then on the other side here, we have different battles and things that they were involved in that they thought was important for them to have on their monument here at Gettysburg. And I'll see if I can't find a picture of these men possibly being out here with this monument, or at least some of them, dedicating this monument here. Those photos are particularly hard to find if it's not a unit that's talked about often or reported on often. So we'll see what we can find out about the 75th Pennsylvania here in Gettysburg. So the fighting here is bad. It's real bad. The officer in charge, I believe his last name was Mahler or Mailer. I'm probably butchering that name. He ends up getting hit. His horse is knocked out from underneath him. And then when he gets back to his feet, he ends up getting mortally wounded. And that leaves command to a man named August. And August is going to be in charge out here on this field just in time for these soldiers to end up getting pushed back through town. And like the monument said, 75th is out here at 2 p.m. and by about 4:30, they're scurrying their way back through that town. You're going to have Rhodes and Early's division converging on this location. Just around the corner over here, where those trees are sticking up from out behind the corn stalks, that is Barlow's Knoll. That collapse over there is going to play a big part in what's happening out here on this field. When that portion of the field starts to collapse, things over here start getting hairy too, and people start to fall back on this field. These soldiers all around are starting to have to slide back through town and converge on another location for a rally point. This is just the beginning of the Battle of Gettysburg. One tidbit of interesting information about this fight. Everybody talks about day one as if it's a small fight. If you take day one of Gettysburg just by itself, day one of Gettysburg still lists itself in the top 20 battles in all of the American Civil War history. It's up there with places like Fredericksburg, Cold Harbor. The casualty count on this field out here on July 1st exceeds Cold Harbor. So it's a pretty amazing fight out here just for the first day, the opening act of the Battle of Gettysburg. And that leads us to day two. Now, by Miller's own account, he said he passes by the red brick house, the one that he marked up. He doesn't know it as Jennie Wade's house. He doesn't even know Jennie Wade. I don't think he even met her, even though she was reportedly handing out bread outside of the house as the soldiers were fighting. But he reports passing by the house at some point. That's how he gets the idea of marking up the side of the house. Now, another story I've heard told was kind of word of mouth, I guess, by Eric and his, I believe he said it was his grandfather, Eric Dorr. Says grandfather told him that the veteran told him that he was in place behind the house and I guess was firing from behind the house or something like that. All right, so for all you Gettys nerds out there, you know exactly where I am at. I am at Cemetery Hill. And from my best guesstimation, there is a rock wall here, and it runs through the cemetery over there where the actual 75th monument is located. And if I had to guess, I would say along this rock wall is what they're talking about out there where the cemetery is, facing the Confederate soldiers that are in that direction over there, which is probably what gives our guy the idea of going over to the Jennie Wade House and carving his initials in. On July 2nd, early in the morning, he ends up going across that wall and heading right over there to the Jennie Wade House. And then that's when he decides to put his initials in that house. It's a very thin scraping that's on that wall. It's not very deep at all. I'm sure he was worried about the noise. And of all the places to be putting your initials, right there at the edge of that wall, that's a pretty bold move. But that's exactly what he did. Now there's a lot of fighting going on around here. And later in the afternoon, on July 2nd, this hill becomes a fiery blaze of about 2,000 Confederate soldiers that are going to try to make their way up this hill. And you can look and see way down here. They're actually going to make their way up from over here. And it's going to be in concert with the fight that's happening at Culp's Hill. Initially, they're going to be successful. They're actually going to come up this crazy deep slope down here, and they're going to take artillery pieces up here on the top of this hill in this location, and they're going to hold it for a while. But eventually, they don't get support, and the Union soldiers are going to push them back down this hill, and the Confederates are going to go off back through those woods over there. That's just a rough overview of what happened here. Again, I'm not a licensed battlefield guide, so I'm not the expert on it, and I do often consult with other people that know a heck of a lot more about this battle than I do. So if you have something to challenge me with, go ahead and put it there in the comment section. It only makes me better. If you're a Union soldier on this side of the field here, there's not a whole lot for you to get behind for cover. A couple of stone walls, a couple of buildings out in the area, and this structure here, of course, is the Jennie Wade House, this portion that we're about to go to. This place happens to sit right in between the lines. Unfortunately for Jennie Wade, she dies here as a result. But soldiers are actually going to take cover behind this house when they're firefighting between themselves and the Confederates. And on this house, there's actual graffiti here from a soldier who left it behind. And you can just barely make it out there. A.F.M. Coming along the front of this building here, it's not hard to see the damage left behind by some of the bullets here, and supposedly sharpshooter bullets. But with the structure being between two enemy lines here, it could have been just about any soldiers that fired through this house, not necessarily sharpshooters. This is pretty amazing, the damage left behind. And that structure back there provides a rare glimpse into the life of a civilian here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania during that battle. But what's more is it gives a rare glimpse into the mind of a young man fighting here at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. This young man doesn't know if he's going to survive the battle, doesn't know if he's going to end up dying out here. And who knows the reason why he really put that in there. He's just leaving his mark behind. There's plenty of other places across Virginia, for example, where soldiers have left graffiti behind for people to find. But the initials of that young man are extremely important. And since they were able to capture that story in 1907, we know who did it. And I know a little bit more about who this man was. July 2nd rolls around, and Adam's gone over there and put his initials on the Jennie Wade House. And he doesn't yet know it, but the young girl that's on the inside there is going to end up dying. Whether or not he ever saw her, I don't know. There's nothing written about it. He never mentions her in the article that was written about him. But odds are, if he was sitting on the other side of this fence over here, he probably saw the young woman come out of the house at least once. Because she was out offering water and bread to the soldiers out here. And who knows, maybe that might have been a reason that he was lured in over there to carve his initials on that house. He saw some kindness in front of him. We'll never know, though. That's lost to history. Almost like his initials would have been lost to history had this not been brought up in a newspaper article and people like Tim Smith and Eric Dorr preserving these stories here in Gettysburg. Well, that pretty much does it for our story here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania about Adam Miller. Little does Adam know, he's going to end up on a monument here in Gettysburg anyways. His name's going to make a mark. It's on that monument right there behind me, the large Pennsylvania monument. Now, I know Adam came out here in 1907 to check out his graffiti. And from all accounts, he had vision problems. So maybe he wasn't able to see it, but he could feel it. By 1910, they're putting this thing up over here. And I know there's pictures of veterans actually showing up to check their names out on the monument here by 1913 for the big reunion of the 50th anniversary. So hopefully Adam got to see his name on the tablet where it's listed as Corporal Francis Miller here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on that monument. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope I brought a little something extra to the story. I know it's already been covered before, but I think the more we know about these people, the better the story is, better of an understanding we have, and the more we can actually capture about these people, what they went through and who they were, so the future generations can actually see this stuff for themselves and learn too. It's like that article from 1907 that was preserved and found by a historian in the 2000s. Well, it's been a lot of fun. Can't wait to get to the next one. Until next time, from right here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in front of the big, beautiful Pennsylvania Monument, this is History with Waffles. Oh, if you made it this far in the video, just like I asked before, please give me that thumbs up, and then hit those hype points. Let's keep this video going and help my channel grow some more. I appreciate all the support out there, especially from you Waffle Squad members. Thanks for everything, and thanks for always sticking around for these videos. We'll see you out there on those fields.